Hi, I'm Michael Reshaw with Recirculating Farms, and today we're going to talk a little bit about pre and post storm work. So we're in New Orleans right now recovering after Hurricane Ida, and we're starting to do a little bit of our post hurricane work. But first, I'm going to talk to you about how to mitigate damages and how to prepare your farm or garden before a storm comes. So one of the biggest things that you want to do is to put up any materials that you think might be able to blow or fly away. These are going to be materials like your seedling trays, your seedling pots, any potted plants that will blow over, chairs, wheelbarrows, any loose tools that you might have, any trash cans or trash bags, or you will come back to a farm or a garden site that's full of trash. You even want to pick up any type of limbs or any type of debris that you see on the ground so these things don't blow around and cause damage to your property or your neighbor's property. You also want to think about things like row covers, greenhouse tarps, silage tarps, things like that, because these things can blow around and get damaged and then cost you more money in the long run. There's some other things that you might want to think about, like the hoops for row cover. Sometimes these things are anchored into the ground, so you might not be able to take them out, or screwed into a bed. So it might be a little more hassle than it's worth, but these things might blow away and you might have to replace them after the storm. It's just something to consider. There are other things that you might not be able to really have control over, such as fallen trees or down cable lines or power lines. Those are things that you just want to make sure are out of the way of any property as much as you can. But at the end of the day, there's really not a whole lot that you can do about it. As you can see on our farm, we have a down cable line and a down tree, a down pecan tree. There's really nothing we could do about that, but we did move as much property out of the way of those things. So when they fell down, we had very minimal damage to any of our plants or plant beds. So when it comes to protecting your plants that are in the ground, you have a few options. You can either harvest all of your plants, harvest all of the fruit from your plants and then bring them inside, or harvest all your fruit of your plants and then terminate the plants. Another option is to stake your plants like we tried to do here with our okra. Some of them survived, some of them didn't. It was worth a shot. Now that they haven't made it, we're going to go ahead and harvest all of our okra pods and then terminate these plants. As you can see, for some of our lower plants, like the pepper, eggplant, they are a little more sturdy because they were a lower profile and didn't get as much damage from the wind. So those seem to be able to make it. So the general rule is lower profile plants like your lettuces and things like that, you can leave in the ground and just take the chance. When your bigger plants like okra or your tomatoes, you're going to want to stake those in place or harvest all of the fruit and then terminate the plant to mitigate damages. For your plants that aren't in the ground, you might want to consider bringing them inside. Here at Recirculating Farms, we're lucky enough to have a shipping container on site. So we're able to bring a lot of our potted plants inside. So that included seedlings that we just put into pots, some seedling pots that had already sprouted and were about to go into the ground right before the storm, and even some of our small fruit trees that are still in pots sitting outside. So we were able to bring all these things inside. Some of them went into our shipping container, but we weren't able to fit all of them. And you might not have a shipping container or a storage space on your site. So we brought them inside, which is something else that you can do. I brought a lot of our plants to my home, and this is a really good option, even if you think that you're going to lose power or water for a little while, because they'll suffer a lot less being inside, away from the wind damage and those heavy rains, and they'll be able to bounce right back if you give them a little bit of love right after the storm. For example, here's a few of our plants that we had inside of our shipping container. So these two plants have been inside of our shipping container for a few weeks now. Hurricane Ida hit on August 29th, and we're 3-4 weeks out of that. So these plants didn't have any vegetation or foliage on them before we put them in the shipping container, and now you can see that they started to bud a little bit. And yes, these buds are a little yellow, the leaves are a little yellow because they weren't getting the sunlight that they needed, but with a little bit of water, a little bit of sunlight, and TLC, and some time, these things will bounce right back. So post-storm, one of the first things you want to do is carefully walk around your property and around your grow area and assess any of the damages. So you might want to take your phone or a camera or some other recording device with you so you can document all the damages that you have. One, this can be useful if you're a professional grower and you can use this to help get claims and assistance on recovery. Or even if you're a home grower, it's good to see where you have damage issues or problem spots. So when the next storm comes, you can make sure to focus on shoring up these areas and mitigating as much damage as possible. So after you walk around and assess all the damages, you want to start thinking about a cleanup plan. So our first step with the cleanup plan was to get our massive tree out of the way because it was blocking us from being able to walk around the rest of the site. After getting that cut up, our next step is going to be to cut a lot of this overgrown grass and to get our beds clear for the fall season, which is upon us already. So to clear out our beds, we're going to start by getting rid of a lot of the plants that have fallen down. So we already mentioned that we're going to harvest all of our fruit off before we actually get the plants out of the ground. And then we also have a lot of cover crops here because we cover cropped right before the storm came. So we're going to terminate a lot of those as well and get these beds clear for planting for the fall season. So one of the last steps that you need to do post-storm is to check in with your local ag extension, check in with your local mutual aid organizations and other growing groups in the area to see if there's any assistance that they can offer, and also to connect you with any type of relief or aid efforts that are going on nationally or locally. Remember, your local ag extension is your best friend.